Hello and welcome back to COMM-6019 Advanced Business Communication. And one of the most important things in a course like this is learning how to set up a good resume and especially a good cover letter. So this is what we're going to do in the module slides for this week. And the first thing we want to do is kind of look at the various parts of what makes a good resume and a good cover letter. The first thing that we want to think about is describing what we do. It's one thing to go to school, have an education, but we might get some work experience that we want to talk about. So what is one of the really best ways for us to be able to describe the particular tasks that we do that have been given to us or that we have been able to do on our own? This list, this very comprehensive list, is all the different types of verbs, the action verbs that describe what you're likely doing in a business environment. As you can see, accomplished, completed, familiarized, monitored, scheduled, selected, motivated, formulated, and on it goes. All these things, all these verbs describe very specifically what you do in the task that you have or are about to finish as you go looking for new work. So keep that in mind when you're putting together a resume and also when you're putting together a cover letter. And we will get into the differences between these two documents because both are very, very important, but they're also quite different. Okay, so in this day and age, here we are doing all this work online, remote learning, and guess what? Remote is really the day of the way in which we do things in this day and age. That's what I'm trying to say. What we want to do is try to optimize the way we look for work in our digital world using these digital tools. Some for the better and some for the worst. And one of the worst ones is what's called an applicant tracking system, an ATS. Now this thing is essentially a robot, right? It's a robot loaded up with software, and it is designed to work as a kind of gatekeeper. And what happens is all the resumes and cover letters that are sent to a particular company for a specific job, that company usually hires an outside person. It could be an adjunct to the HR department, could be a completely separate unit. But what these people do is they take that huge pile of resumes and cover letters and run them through this ATS system. And what this ATS system does, it's sort of ATS because it is a tracking system. But the ATS does is it weeds out potential candidates who are just not, either have not written a very good cover letter using the kind of keywords that the company's looking for, because the keywords are the very things that are loaded into this software. So the robot is told, look for these particular words. So the really sad part about looking for work in the digital age is that usually the first thing that you are going to encounter, whether or not you know it, is an ATS, right? So that tracking system is going to weed out the potential candidates from the dross, right? From the individuals who either have not created a good resume and or cover letter, or at least have not used the keywords that the company thinks are important for them to consider a candidate. So what does that mean? Well, at the very least, you want to be able to think about this ATS device, this robot, and be able to, in a sense, address it, right? And there are 5 different ways in which you can do this. The first one is to include those keywords or key phrases that you think the ATS is going to be looking for. Now, how do you do that? What you do is you read carefully through the job description, the actual posting, right? The advertisement or the posting of one sort or another for this job, because it will be full of those keywords. So what you need to do is import them into your resume or at least into your cover letter, because your resume kind of presents to a potential employer you kind of in a general sense, but a cover letter specifies your skill set as it relates to the specific job. So that's kind of one of the differences between the two, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So the first thing you want to do is locate and identify those keywords or key phrases that you think are going to matter in your cover letter and or your resume. Focus on the nouns, right? The job titles, the position, the role, the technical skills, the certifications, the tools that are required, whatever specialization that you think is specific to that job. Include those in your cover letter, because at the very least, it shows that you, as a potential employee, have done your homework, right? You've gone looking through this advertisement, this job placement. You've read it carefully. You've looked for those keywords and phrases. You've looked for the job title, the position, whatever specialization it requires. Those are the things that are going to matter, right? And the ATS is going to pick it up. So you can use variations on the job title. You may know it slightly differently. And again, there's no harm in trying to do it one way or the other by setting it up so that the job title may be described one way in the job posting, but you can call it something else slightly, just in case the ATS has that other word that's been loaded in as part of the software, the kind of keywords that it is looking for. So you can certainly play around with that. Excuse me. 4, you can concentrate on the skills section by describing your skills and qualifications. This is in particular with the cover letter, because imagine the resume is kind of a general introduction. The cover letter is a specific introduction. It is an attempt to marry up your skill set with a specific job. So the more effectively you do that in terms of looking for those words and phrases and the job descriptions, the more likely you are to be not sort of sent off into the round file, right? In other words, the garbage, but on the pile up of potential applicants. That's where you want to end up. So keyword summaries, you want to kind of strike a balance between having enough in there and enough of them in your cover letter and or your resume, but you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to have every sentence with a different keyword, a different key phrase, because you're not sure. So as you work your way through these various job applications, you will become very proficient at spotting what you think is a key phrase or a key word. What I would recommend doing is writing up kind of a somewhat general cover letter. Now, not so general that it is simply like a basic introduction, but it is a cover letter that's going to address more or less the job and or the field that you're aiming to work in. So keep it that way so that when it comes time for you to write a cover letter, you kind of have a template. You have a kind of a skeletal frame, a bare bones kind of, package that you can start with. And you can have it sort of set up in paragraphs. The last one is usually the same thing. I look forward to hearing back from you. I would like to contact you and meet with you, for further information, that kind of thing. Write it fairly generically, so it doesn't need to be changed a whole lot. But certainly the body paragraphs, the body paragraphs are going to matter. You want to make sure that those are fairly clear. So look for keywords and phrases. Job title, position, or role, specializations or technical skills required for that specific job. You can vary the job title a little bit, just in case the ATS robot has another word loaded in. The skill section, right? Description of skills and qualifications, always important. But again, don't overdo it. Don't write so many of them that it becomes kind of obvious. So that's really what I want you to consider and think about as you set up, for example, your resume. So a resume, if it's printed out, and I would say always have a few of those with you, because you never know, you might run into someone in the most sort of inopportune place, waiting for a bus or a cab or an Uber, outside of a restaurant, waiting in a lineup to go into a movie. Hopefully when that happens soon, in a few months. But always have one with you just in case. Now, the rest of the time, this is all going to be done electronically. You're going to be sending your resume and cover letter as part of an email attachment that you will be sending to the potential employer. And You want to always have that thing up to date, the resume up to date with the most recent things that you've done. So you want to have it ready for a job interview. It could be something on the fly. There could be person-to-person networking that you may feel that you do better at, or you are better at. And if you know that the particular job doesn't require or doesn't insist that they want to meet people face to face, okay, and they want to see a person even when they hand in the resume, that sounds a little old-fashioned. Some companies may still wish to do that. So do have both. Keep a copy in your hard drive that's up to date, but print out a few copies so that you have them with you. And of course, always make sure that your information is up to date. And your resume should look something like this. Your name at the very top. And if you can fit everything on one page, great. But I wouldn't go past 2 pages unless you're really happy to brag. But guess what? If it is on one double-sided sheet of paper, if you have 3 pages, that third page is less likely to get lost if you can put it on two or double-sided single page. So aim for that as much as possible. So your resume will have your contact information. So your name, your address, phone number, cell number, email, for sure the email, and then your objectives. If you're looking for a particular position, you can put that in. If you wish, you can keep the objectives fairly general, like fairly sort of open, because if you're in the field of, let's say, architecture, or in the field of promotions, or project management, any of these kinds of fields that you're in, you can keep the objective fairly basic and straightforward and not have to tweak it too much. Where you do want to tweak it is in the cover letter. You want that to be specific. So your objectives, the first thing you want to have your education, so that your potential employer or the ATS can see and read through your education first. Then secondly, your experience. Now, I would say if you have a lot more experience than education, then reverse that. But at least for right now, this education and experience, you can move them around depending on what kind of educational or academic experience you have versus work experience. Whichever is your strength, put that up there first. So education or experience, whichever is your strength, put that one up first. So that, let's say it is experience, that goes first, then your education, or the other way around. Then finally, any kind of honors, activities, certificates, specialized things that you've done, you can put those at the very bottom under honors and or activities. So that's really what it should look like. Okay, now I talked a little bit about the resume. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the cover letter, at least in these slides. Now, what is a cover letter? Does it cover something? Well, it does kind of. What it does is it covers you, right? It introduces your resume and your skill set, but it does it in a slightly different way, because the difference between a cover letter and a resume usually is a bunch of statements, and they're not complete sentences, and they're not designed to be full sentences, because they take up room. So that's why that first set of slides, those action verbs, you want to be able to go through them and see if you can pick and choose the ones that best describe whatever the job description is for the job you presently have. And if you don't have one, don't worry so much about it. You can look to volunteer work, really any other kind of work that you may have done, but really kind of punch it up, right? Punch it up with those action verbs. But in the cover letter, you can still use those same action words and action verbs, but put them in complete sentences, because that perhaps is the most important difference between the cover letter and the resume, along with the cover letter being a specific reference to a job. It's written in complete sentences. And that's important because remember the first time we met, what was the number one thing that employers wanted to see? Good communication skills. That's what they wanted to see. So if you cannot write a proper sentence, a grammatically correct sentence, that's going to reflect on your capacity to get past the ATS and actually secure an interview with someone, like an actual human person face to face. So always make sure that your cover letter shows you in your best light. Even if you have to show it to a couple of people or get professional help, write that cover letter in the best way you can, because it does reflect on yourself. It covers you in the sense that this is me, this is my skill set, and this is me expressing to you my desire to work. But it has to be done in a proper communicative style. And if it's done poorly with bad sentence structure, bad grammar, spelling, and so on, it reflects negatively on you. It reflects very negatively on your ability to communicate. You don't want to do that. So some companies prefer shorter cover letters. Some prefer slightly longer. I would not write a cover letter that is any more than 1 page. I think there's something wrong with a person's ability to edit down their material if it goes past 1 page. I don't know of any jobs sort of in the general job market that would require a 2-page cover letter. If this is like a government job, or this is sort of a high security job, this is something that requires a lot of specialization, maybe you might have to go more than a page. But try to keep your cover letter to 1 page. Let's say 3 paragraphs maximum. I think they would fit on the page, no problem. But again, it depends on what the job actually is. Most of them can be done in 1 page. And also, too, you don't want to give absolutely everything away. You want to present yourself in such a way that you intrigue maybe the ATS. That would be nice. But more importantly, the person that now picks up that pile of potential candidates once it's gone past the robot, and let's say out of 1,000, there could be 50. They may run it through again and change the software, and change the keywords. No matter what, you want to be in that final list of potential candidates, and you want to present enough information to them to make it worthwhile for them to bring you in for an interview. That's really what matters. So your cover letter should be appealing. If you can address the person by name in the HR department, it sounds like a big job, but it really isn't, because most companies have got some sort of internet presence. And if that's the case, you can find that name. Now, the name could also be in the posting. Read through the entire thing. And if it says, send it to our HR department, and if there is an HR department in that company, take a few minutes to locate that information, whether it's under Contact Us or About Us on the web page. So that information usually is there. So imagine getting a cover letter that is personally addressed to you. Let's say you work in HR and somebody actually took the time to find your name. You know that you didn't post it on there. So instead of feeling like someone's stalking them, they're kind of pleased. Somebody went the extra mile, right? Did the extra little bit of work to get my name not only correct, but addresses me properly. So, dear hiring manager, kind of generic, kind of vague, but dear Ms. Patel, okay, that's fine. That's very specific. So that's one thing you want to do, is personalize that letter. 2, you want to refer to the source of your information. Companies want to know where you found out about the job, because at the very least, it tells them that their advertising dollars are paying off, as opposed to ignoring it altogether. And the first thing that the HR person is going to wonder is, well, where did they find out about this job? Do they know someone within the organization? Do they know someone within HR? Who knows? So will there be a conflict of interest, perhaps? So do refer to the source of your information about the job. I saw your posting on monster.com. I saw your posting on Indeed. I'm sure there are others out there as well. But job postings that you find online, take a moment to identify it in the cover letter. It goes a long way to establishing a kind of trust between you as a potential employee and the work you've done looking around for work. And from the company's point of view, it's money well spent. There are people reading our ads. Our job postings are being read. They're being seen. That's a good thing. I'll refer to the job title always. Now, the job title and the qualifications are for sure. What is particularly important with a job title is usually in both monster.com and Indeed, the job posting will have a number. Now that number is important. Why? Because the organization that you're contacting may have several jobs on the go. And there could be jobs that are close enough in sort of job title that one little slip up may end up putting you in a different pile. Let's say you have let's keep it with HR. Let's say you have an HR background, but it's a particular kind of HR position you're after, but you didn't bother to identify the specific number and job title that you're after. So the person in HR sees your letter. It sounds pretty good, but they're not 100% sure which of the 3 jobs that they're offering. So they don't know where to place it. You don't want that. You do not want any hesitation from the company on behalf of HR. You don't want any hesitation from them as to where to place your candidacy. So if there's a job title, absolutely use it. If there's a job number, absolutely include that. So the HR people know exactly which job you're after. So refer to the source of your information, refer to the job title and or the job number, demonstrate an interest in and a knowledge of the reader's business. Again, it goes a long way. It shows that you're willing to go the extra mile to find out a little bit about that company, and perhaps one of the reasons why you want to work for company X versus company Y. Why is, one architectural firm better than another? What has that other architectural firm done or not done? Let's say you're going after, architectural firm, X. Okay. Well, this company has won awards. They're using sustainable, green energy to create their buildings. They want to have a zero emissions building. All the environmental issues, they take them very, very seriously, and that's your jam, right? That's what you're all about. So you've done the work to find out that architectural company X is all about that. So by demonstrating an interest in and a knowledge of the reader's business, you bring that up. You say, look, I care deeply about the environment. I care deeply about the fact that you wish to design buildings with zero emissions. Fantastic. That's what I want to do. That is the kind of connection that you can establish using your cover letter with your potential employer. So all those things matter. And then finally, number 5, show how your special talents and background will benefit the company. Because lots of people have, generally speaking, the same academic background. Think of all the people that you will be graduating with, let's say in a year or a couple of years. All of you essentially have got the same education. But what you want to do is distinguish yourself by combining your education with either your volunteer work, your work experience, or a combination thereof, the number of languages you can speak. You want to be able to take your academic background, whatever the special talents are that you have, and show that you are different from another potential employee, maybe coming out of the same school or coming out of a similar program. You need to distinguish yourself. And that's really what makes a good cover letter. So how do you do that? You always promote your strengths. And there's a whole range of different things that people do that allows them to really shine in a cover letter. So you've identified your purpose in the letter, right? In the opening paragraph, I'm after this particular job, and you include the job title. Then you present your qualifications. If you are responding to a specific ad, don't forget to tell them where you found it. And from there, you start to basically tell them about yourself. And it doesn't matter where you were born. It doesn't matter where you grew up. What does matter are your skills. So if your skills include being multilingual, being able to speak, let's say, 3 different languages, or at least 2, absolutely that's a skill. If you are well versed in software, not only software use, but you have experience in software design, fantastic. So it may not be something specific to the, let's say with architecture, it may not be specific to the architectural field, but all this other background makes you a unique candidate. Unique here is good, right? You're not like all the other ones that have come out of the halls of academia, whether it's Fanshawe or university or somewhere else. Yes, you have, but you have all these other skills. You may have other accreditations and certifications from different fields. Look at each one. See which one might matter the most in your job application. If you have software design background and you're looking to work for an architectural firm, absolutely I would put that down, because they may be looking for people to help design software that makes building design even easier. So personal traits, academic traits, volunteer work, backgrounds, certifications, accreditation, all that stuff, all of it is important. But be selective. Be selective about the ones that are going to matter most in the job posting. So what you want to do is, as you kind of wrap up the cover letter, is turn around and say, this is me as a unique individual with an academic background, several years of work experience and volunteer work, accreditation, certification, whatever else. Remind them to have a look at your resume to get specific details. And if you can do that, you will have a very strong cover letter and resume. So really, that's what you're looking for. This is one that's very simple. This is for a nursery nurse cover letter. It's basically for a nursery, like a daycare. We've got the health center on the one hand, which is the address going to Mr. John Brown. Jane Smith is a person who is applying for the position. You can set it up like that on either side if you want to save room, or if there is enough room, you can have it left justified. In other words, this address you can place over here. But this has been very smart. This is clever by having both of them kind of parallel to each other to use up less room. So, dear Mr. Brown, I'm writing to express my interest in the nursery nurse role. I saw advertising in the Anytown Chronicles. We're just making this up, but you can see I'm interested in this job. I saw it advertised here. I'm a qualified nursery nurse. I've been working this position for 2 years. Local early years center, and on it goes. I've attached, and I'm going down to the last paragraph. I've attached a copy of my CV detailing my other qualifications and achievements for your perusal. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Kindest regards, Jane Smith. So short, sweet, to the point, but this paragraph really identifies Jane as a unique candidate who not only has experience and probably an academic background, but has done some work. She's been out there working, and she's been garnering that wisdom and experience that is going to make her more valuable than perhaps someone else who is applying who may be straight out of school. So keep those things in mind as you think about a cover letter and a resume. So that's the first set of slides. We're going to stop here, and I'll see you back in just a moment with the next set of slides where we talk about the cover letter in a little bit more detail.